We are back with a new broadcast. I hope we won't receive any interruptions for this one whatsoever. I still can't get it on feed. Okay, let me see. Let me check it out. But we are back. we've had to. We've had to. We've had to start a new broadcast. Okay. Okay, Pedro is here with us. Apologies on that. I do not know what happened. I think somebody called me via Instagram, and then that disrupted our feed. It disrupted our feed. Uh, let me hope that things won't be interrupted once again. Let me hope we won't have any disruptions whatsoever once again. But I think I was trying to respond to your earlier question when you asked about the FIFA World Cup, the 2026 edition. First of all, I think it's going to be the first of its kind in many respects. For the first time, it's going to be played across the countries. I know we've had a World Cup that is played across two countries. That was Korea, Japan in 2002. It was a whole different experience. So this time around, it's going to be played in the USA, in Canada, and Mexico. So it's going to be a whole different experience for majority of the fans. But also, given that USA is really not predominantly known to be, it's not predominantly to be a football country, it begs the question on how they are going to, organize this event. I know the president Donald Trump has said they are really looking forward to it, and that they will do everything within their power to make sure that fans have a very great experience. But like I was saying, players like Jude Bellingham, for us who watched the FIFA Club World Cup, they did complain about the quality of the stadiums, especially they're playing tough. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on that front to improve it. But also, it's going to be the first of its kind where we have 48 teams, like you practically mentioned in that earlier comment. For those of you that are just joining us, we've had to, restart the broadcast because we had an interruption with our earlier broadcast. So, and because it's going to be 48 teams, that means we are going to have, I think, 104 games played across the competition. And the qualification format is going to be such that there are going to be, I think, 12 pots or 12 groups. At the top two advance to the knockout stages, and then out of those 12 teams, we will go back and have an assessment of another cohort of 8 teams, the third best 8 teams out of the 12 groups. So those 8 teams will then add themselves to the initial 24 that qualified directly as first and second place, respectively, out of the 12 groups, to make a cohort of 32 teams. Now, those 32 teams will be pitted against each other to play for a playoff for a knockout round that then takes us to the round of 16, and then from the round of 16 we go to the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and eventually the final. And I think, of course, we'll also get to see the third place playoff game as well. So the time for Europe is awful. Indeed, and I like I said, I do not know really what the timelines are going to be when it comes to playing those games. But if it is going to be as such as we've seen the World Cup, then it's going to be one that will be really difficult. Guys, if you're just joining us on the broadcast, kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel and help me to 2,000 subscribers. My name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. That's where we are discussing some bit of football. But thank you for joining us this Sunday evening. So, when you say that the time in Europe is awful, indeed it's going to be awful because, by the way, let's not forget, the time has always been awful for American fans that enjoy European games, So this is just going to be a reverse of those odds. But also, I think in some respect, because of the economic structures of some of those, the big countries, I think they will have fans still traveling because it's going to be played during the summer. You know, some people have summer breaks off work and they get to travel. That's when, you know, they go for travels, for vacations and things of that nature. So the tournament itself will still be able to attract fans. But in terms of the people, in terms of us who do not travel for these competitions, all the other fans that will stay in their respective countries that will want to watch these games from home on their TVs, in pubs, and things of that nature, indeed, for some games they'll struggle a bit. They'll struggle a bit, and because I mean, how many times do you wake up to watch a game that is starting at 2 a.m.? How many times do you wake up to watch a game that is starting at 4 a.m.? And by that I mean East African time. So usually, if it's 4 a.m. in Uganda, that means it's 2 a.m. in the UK. If it's 2 a.m. in Uganda, that means it's midnight in the UK. So there are going to be a bit of sacrifices there. However, if you do remember, for some of the games, they started at around 10 p.m. And 10 p.m. East African time, which meant that was about 8 p.m. UK time. So I do not know what concessions they will have to take in terms of organizing the kickoff time, but let's wait and see. You say the Club World Cup was an accurate presentation of what will happen next year. It's going to be a month and a week with no sleep, I guess. Trust me, you cannot let your body not afford you an ounce of sleep. Let me tell you what happened to me, particularly one time. So, as the case always is, I get to, you know, to do this broadcast, and I think I watched a game in the FIFA Club World Cup. Then I because those games were starting late, I would start my broadcast at halftime, and then we sort of do a mini watch along of the second half, but not me bringing all the updates. But if I waited for the game to end and then I start the broadcast, I went to bed so late, and yet I have to be up very early in the morning to do the early morning broadcast. At one time, I was dozing on a broadcast. That's how bad it was. So I can imagine if, let's say, because I'm a Uganda Cranes fan, but because Uganda Cranes has never played at the World Cup, I've always been a Brazil fan, you know. So I imagine myself waking up at 2 a.m. to watch my Brazil team play, and then that game finishes at 4 a.m. and then I go to bed maybe for 4, 5, 6, and then by 7:30 or 8, I'm up to do my morning broadcast time, and then I have to prepare to do other things. How tiring is it going to be? And I mean, it's going to be a whole tall order really for majority of the fans worldwide. For some, the timing will be favorable. For others, it won't. But it is what it is. It is what it is. It is the nature of. It's the World Cup that we can only play with the hand we've been dealt with. So in this case, that's the hand we've been dealt with, and it's one that we'll have to stick to. So it's not like we really have much alternatives for solutions, unless for some people that have the technology, they will have some games are recorded and then they watch them in the morning. But you can imagine, will TV stop? Sports TVs? I mean, I think what we'll have is what we've had, for example, for the World Cup. For those of us that get our feed from SuperSport, is that you have a set of analysts or pundits come in, they do 1, 2 games, and then they do a revoke, the set moves out, and then another comes in. Yeah, Negri Bolasiu. What Bola? What's up? What's up? Hi Bola, where are you joining us from? But it's good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel, Bola. So Daniel Tuton, hi Daniel, how are you doing? We've never done this on the Sunday, so I won't say I've never seen you here on the Sunday. This is our first time, I think, doing this kind of broadcast on the Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the last we did was before the end of the Premier League season. But yeah, meanwhile, Chelsea continue to push to try and sign Xavi Simons. Club to club talks continue between RB Leipzig and Chelsea to try and get a deal done. Then also Morgan Gibbs White, in a stunning twist of events, signed a new contract until June 2028 at Nottingham Forest. He did pose for a photo with the owner, club owner, Evangelist Barnett, which is a huge blow to Tottenham and their pursuit for the 25-year-old England international. How I'm doing well. Do you think Liverpool will get Isak? As I think when it comes to a deal for Alexander, yes, Daniel Tuton is from the UK. He's a Liverpool fan, by the way. If Newcastle open that door to receiving bids, then I think Liverpool could eventually get Alexander Isak. It's still a little hard to call because financially Liverpool can afford it. Newcastle just do not want to let go, I think, before they even get a replacement. So they cannot open that door. However, I think if, let's say, we wake up one morning and Newcastle have signed, let's say, Benjamin Sesko, and they've also managed to sign Yoane Wissa, who they are trying to sign, even though Brentford have closed that door, and it is causing a bit of stir. It's getting to a similar situation like we saw in the Victor Gyökeres case heading to Arsenal, is apparently when Brentford lost Ivan Toney to, is it Al Etfiq, there in the Saudi Pro League club for about £40 million. Apparently, Yoane Wissa was promised in a gentleman's agreement that he would be let go the following summer if a deal came in for him for about £26 million. Now, as we speak today, they are demanding for about £40 to £50 million, according to different sources, if they are to sell the 28-year-old DRC Congo player. Nonetheless, also, Brentford ideally would not want to sell Yoane Wissa because they've lost Brandon Mbomo to Manchester United. So they wouldn't want to lose two of their best players, attacking players, in the same transfer window. However, Yoane Wissa sees this as the best opportunity he has for him to play some UEFA Champions League football. And that is causing a bit of, he's apparently even threatened to possibly go on strike, which is typical of the situation we saw in the Victor Gyökeres case. So let's wait it out and see how things will play out. But when it comes to Alexander Isak joining Liverpool, it's all we expect is Newcastle to be open to listening to offers for Alexander Isak, and then Liverpool will make their bid. Okay. I think Liverpool doesn't need Isak unless Ekitike plays off the left wing. By the way, Daniel, do you play FPL? Okay. I think Yoane Wissa will be gone from Brentford. Maybe Newcastle are still really, really interested. They made a second bid that was in the excess of £30 million, but that door has so far been closed for now. So now, because Liverpool signed Hugo Ekitike, I also feel that they no longer need Alexander Isak that much. However, in terms of building, in terms of their squad, I think they need a centre back more. They need a backup holding midfielder more, because I've made this argument before that, for example, God forbid, if you, let's say, Ryan Gravenberch suffered a lengthy injury, let's say 3 months or 4 months, do you think Wataru Endo has everything it takes to hold Liverpool's foot in that midfield for that long period of time, given Liverpool's responsibilities, playing in the UEFA Champions League, playing in the Premier League, week in, week out? I do not think, while he is a very good player, I think that would be a little too much to ask of him. So I would think that they need a backup holding midfielder, and then they need a backup for Ibrahim Konate or Virgil van Dijk, because sometimes you need the rotation. Sometimes we've seen Ibrahim Konate suffer a couple of injuries here and there. So I think Liverpool would need that kind of player. Okay. Same NGL. I went without Salah and Haaland. Okay. My team is too good without both. You guys are speaking about your fantasy teams, I can see. Yeah, you support Everton. That's new. I didn't know. You hadn't mentioned that, Pedri. You only mentioned Barcelona. I stand to be corrected. But what? Are you mentioning Everton to get Daniel Chiton Watford, or what? What are you trying to attempt in this case? Anyways, do you think England women will win against Spain today in the finals? Then Christensen will be a good backup for Liverpool. I do not think Liverpool are even considering him. I'm joking. I support Barcelona. Okay, okay. You had me on the hook for the second there. When it comes to Christensen, I know, Pedro, you just want to find a new place for Andreas Christensen, but I do not think Liverpool is going to be the destination. Liverpool are interested in signing Mark Gay, and they had considered Joel Hato, but looks like Chelsea are edging closer to that deal, unless Liverpool can, pull out the magic out and say, look here, our Joe Gomez is injured, so you're going to get a straight press in. We could lose Ibrahim Konate, and then they convince him otherwise to make the switch to Anfield as opposed to going to Stamford Bridge at the moment. Spain, England. This is. I think this would be a repeat of Arsenal versus Barcelona for the Women Champions League final. In a way, that's how I would want to look at this. I must be honest, I've not watched the Women's Euros a great deal. I've only got a glimpse of some of, their games here and there. But for the final, I hope I can find time and watch it. Sometimes a lot is happening in the world of football. But Daniel is already saying bye. Daniel, where are you running to? Are you going for work on a Sunday? But I think England, they're both strong teams. I think it will boil down to tactics, which team gets on better and easier. I know that Spain are the reigning champions. Is it for the Euros or for the Women's World Cup? You remember that saga with the Spanish Federation's president, just because he kissed the other woman and she came out to say it was against her wishes and things of that nature. Chloe Kelly. So, anyways, you have to go eat your dinner. It's what? Really? Dinner at 3:50? Wow. Okay, that's new. There's a comment I think I skipped. Okay. Gay will ask for a starting place. Yeah. He would be asking for a starting place because he's the captain at Crystal Palace, and he wants to be part of England's squad for the FIFA World Cup. So he would be only right to demand for that, and that's why I've kept on saying this. That for as long as teams cannot guarantee him a starting place, he's better off staying at Crystal Palace, who by the way want to sell because they do not want to lose him next summer for free. So, and that is why I'm saying Liverpool should have better speak to Mark Gay, convince him to stay at Crystal Palace for 1 year and see out the remainder of his contract, and they get him on a free as they also lose Ibrahim Konate, possibly to Real Madrid as a free agent next summer. That would be the ideal situation. The other thing that they could do is, for example, put Mark Gay on a 1 year contract, extend his contract by 1 year, and then and have, let's say, an agreement in principle or even in written ink that next summer he will be allowed to leave, let's say, for £30 million, as opposed to their current demands of 45 to 50, which may be a bit difficult to get. If you were still having 2 years to his contract, it would have been an easy negotiation for Crystal Palace. Perhaps they would have even demanded more, because in January they turned down a bid worth £55 million from Tottenham Hotspur for the same player. So it's going to be a bit difficult for him when it comes to Mark Gay. But he's only being true to himself to be asking for a starting place in any team that may want to sign him. It's only plausible. That's why Arsenal were unable to convince Joel Hato they were unable to convince Dean Howson to join them, because you look around and if Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba fit, then there's no way you're starting. You look around, and at the time they still had Tomiyasu, they still had, of course, they still have Urine Timber, Ricardo Carafiori, Ben White. How I wish, by the way, speaking of Ricardo Carafiori, I think that player, Carafiori, should have been a midfielder, the way he loves going up front, as opposed to staying back to defend. And if injuries do not hamper his career, I think he's going to go on to be a very, very big player, or good player. I want Spain to win because I love you love Aitana and Alexia. Well, in this one, I must say I have no sides. I'll simply try to enjoy the game the way it will come. If I manage to spare time to catch it, let me try to find out what kickoff time it will be in regards to that fixture. It's coming at 7 p.m. East African time, by the way. So I think I should be able to catch that game. So okay, like I said, the England Spain final for me feels like it's going to be a repeat of the Women's UEFA Champions League side title, where Arsenal won that game by a goal to nil. So, but let's wait and see in terms of how they do set up. Lauren James, the sister to Rachel James, they are from Chelsea. Let's just wait and see. Is Wagner still the manager at the England national team, the women's team? Yes, Sarina. Sorry, Sarina Weigman, not Wagner. Weigman. Yes. But anyways, Ms. Pedri, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to do this with you this evening. Thank you so much for your input today's discussion, for those updates about Barcelona and everything in line, for what we've had for this discussion. It's been a pleasure, really. And I think it's safe to say I should equally wrap it up here. Have yourselves, guys, a wonderful evening. Let's meet in the night for our late night broadcast, where we'll talk about more transfers. Because yeah, things are really happening on the João Felix deal. Things are, not happening for Tottenham Hotspur because they have lost out on Morgan Gibbs White. Things are not happening for Rhys Nelson. Could be headed for Fulham as that deal continues to be negotiated. Then also, yeah, a lot is really happening. There could be. You never know. Chelsea could have struck a deal for Jorel Hato, maybe for Xavi Simons. We'll get to speak more about Luis Diaz, a little more about Joao Felix there, and other things that may arise during the course of that discussion. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. Bye-bye for now.